blockchain, 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 blockchain. Yeah. With three, with three, with three, with three, with three, with three. Yeah. Blockchain, 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 blockchain. Yeah. With three, with three, with three.
What it do, baby? It's your boy Blockhead bringing you the absolute best in DeFi. I'm not going to say this twice, but this is not financial advice. It's the day before 4th of July. Markets are heating up. Bitcoin reclaimed 110. And today we are joined by a very special group of guys, also known as CryptoParadise. Big shout out to Mr. Hitman and Crypto Amaru. How you guys doing?
Good, man. Happy to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yes,
Doing
sir.
well. Happy to hop on here and, allow people to see us behind or beyond just the altcoins and the degeneracy and kind of talk about different things other than just price charts.
Yeah, definitely. Well, the only price chart that I really want to bring up is this right here, man. Look at that. Bitcoin creeped up, hit 110, and yes, we got a little rejected, but hey, we're cruising, man. We're cruising.
Yeah, and I think the more important price chart, if we're looking at any, would probably be Ethereum, in my opinion. It's been one we've been talking now about a couple weeks. It's kind of been basing and then surging, basing, then surging. And now we're seeing the Ethereum strategic reserve narrative really catch on in the marketplace. We're seeing publicly traded companies buying and hoarding Ethereum. We see the Pulse Chain Sacrifice wallet is slowly drifting down the list. It's at number 3 right now instead of number 2, as SharpLink Gaming bought a ton of ETH. And I think that's a trend that's going to continue, and a trend that is your friend if you're in the trenches, if you're an altcoin holder, if you're a Pulse Chain believer.
Okay, so you guys have been around for a while. I mean, more than a cycle or two. You guys were in the trenches before the trenches were really a thing. How has the idea of the trenches evolved since you guys have first stepped in the game?
I'm happy to take a stab at that one to get started. By the way, nice to meet everyone in your audience. I go by Crypto Amaru. Been in the space for 8 years professionally now. So yeah, seen a lot, been through a lot. I would say, look, in the beginning, when I first got into crypto and the altcoins were revolving around ICOs, initial coin offerings, the meta then, the sort of the overall narrative is going to, as an industry, use blockchain technology to disintermediate third parties, right? Get the third party out of there and have peer-to-peer sort of businesses running on Ethereum or running on, it was really just Ethereum at the time. So you, for example, had, I remember investing in a decentralized Airbnb, and it's funny, back in the day, these companies would raise oodles of money, like $30 million or whatever. There was the Airbnb one and Uber one, and I love that. So people bought into blockchain as a technology then, I think, much more than now. Whereas, and there was always a speculative element. Let's not kid ourselves. I mean, it was to make money, of course, as an investor. But you kind of believed in the vision. You sort of believed in the tech and, it's going to change the world, so on and so forth. It's really devolved, I think, since then, sadly enough. Well, at least arguably with, the rise of the pump fund tokens and everything happening on Solana, so on and so forth. People have sort of gone that like blockchain is going to change the world, and it's more just, hey, I'm just trying to get rich quick. So that's unfortunate. I mean, there are still people who believe in the tech, and there's still awesome innovations happening in DeFi and all that. But I do days of people, feeling like blockchain was going to solve major problems in the world.
Yeah, I'd really agree with that. Last cycle, people were making fun of the 2016, 2017, 2018 cycle, saying the ICOs was selling you hopes and dreams. And some of them were just cash grabs, but at least they had like a vision or an idea for the future. Some worked out, some didn't. Decentralized exchanges didn't exist back then. DeFi really didn't exist. Yield generation didn't exist. Uniswap didn't exist. So there was things that came out of that cycle, the promises that became a reality. I think this cycle so far has been more of, hey, we're not going to give you any promises. We're going to get you a funny picture of a cat, and you're going to buy it, and you're going to like it, and you're going to hope to sell it sooner than the next guy. So it's really 6 of one, half dozens of the other, or what you really want. I will say the quote-unquote trenches back in the 2017 cycle was much, I would say, easier in terms of there was less shiny objects, but harder in terms of back then you had to truly be a believer, an innovator, an earlier adopter of Bitcoin in blockchain technology because access was limited. There was no mainstream media talking about it. There was no institutions buying it. You had to be ahead of the curve back then to even be in those trenches versus now. Yes, it's harder in the fact that there's tons of shiny objects. There's rug pulls everywhere. There's meme coins everywhere. But getting into crypto and getting your fiat into crypto is much easier. And you're really not that early of an adopter when it comes to these markets now. Now you can see it on mainstream media. Your neighbor might be asking you about it. There's institutions buying Bitcoin and ETH. So yes, you're still taking more risk. Yes, there's a ton of shiny objects, but it was a much harder to be early back in 2016, 2017. And there's people that were even here in 2013 and beyond.
So what struggles do you guys face when it comes to onboarding? Like, how do you explain to people that the dollar is devaluing in a way that they understand?
Well, look, I mean, it's funny. I often have these kind of conversations with quote normies, right, in my town and stuff, because people know who I am. I live in a small town, and people know, okay, that's the crypto guy. And so people sometimes come up, you're in Bitcoin, or they ask me, what do you do? Oh, I'm in crypto, blah blah. And you start to have these conversations. I've come to the realization, and maybe this is a fatalist kind of like defeatist viewpoint, but I feel like there's some people who you can give them the best pitch about why fiat is constantly valued. Look at the chart of Bitcoin, and they can look at my life. I have a lot of stuff. They look at, hey, this was bought with crypto, that was bought with crypto. I mean, it's just a fact, and I can say all these things, and then there's certain they can't take the risk. They don't want to learn about it. A lot of people, actually are not that financially driven, which that's not necessarily a bad thing. Some people are driven in different ways. But, so I have a lot of these conversations where I'm selling it and it doesn't go anywhere. Then you do have those people who you start to give the pitch about the nature of Bitcoin. And I almost always keep it to Bitcoin. I don't start to go down the rabbit holes of memes, and even Ethereum is often comprehension in the beginning, but you just sort of get their interest piqued by talking about the finite nature of Bitcoin, 21 million ever, right? The institutions are behind it. BlackRock's behind it now, right? The market cap of Bitcoin relative to the market cap of gold, right? So if we assume that the world is going to become more and more digital, right? Older folks dying off, younger people are going to adopt. What are they going to adopt? Bitcoin over gold. Okay, so that's a 10x from here. If we go from 2 trillion, to 20 trillion or whatever gold's at. So you start to do and some people, it starts to resonate, and then you kind of tell them, hey, you can download Coinbase, you can buy fractions of it. Look, most people I talk to who are normies, they're never going to be into it. I could be like, look at the Rolex, look at the Benz, look at this. They don't give a fuck. They're like, I'm too scared, I'm whatever. And, and then there's some people that do get it. So, but honestly, that could probably be the same if I talk about stocks as well. A lot of people are just, I put in my 401k. If I have that, I don't even think about it. I don't even know what's in it. I contribute 5, and that's it. So it's just some people are investing.
Yeah, I think to go with that, I'll take a little different angle too. I had a couple videos that did really well. I probably need to resurface them. And it was towards the end of the last administration in the United States because inflation was like 26% over 4 years. And I did 2 different videos, and both of them did really well to explain why you should get out of fiat and what happened in just the last 4 years. The one was me taking a $100 bill and saying, hey, if it cost you $100 to get your lawn mowed 4 years ago, today it cost you $126, and just showing how much more things cost. And of course, that's rudimentary. Not every object follows suit there, but there's a baseline of 26% inflation over 4 years, and that's the rudimentary way to do it. The other way, the other inverse, I did it in both ways because people's brain worked different. The other way was saying, hey, you have $100 right here. This is what you had 4 years ago. And then today you have $76 of spending power. So for every $100 you had in your bank 4 years ago, if you're always told to save, well, now you only have $76 in spending power, or $74 in spending power per $100. And those videos did very well. And it just kind of shows you that if you look up the dollar chart, it is down and to the right for all of history, and it will continue to do so. The big beautiful bill is just passed. There's a lot of good things in it. I know you wanted to talk about it as well during this live show, but ultimately there is also more national debt happening. And when national debt happens and occurs, well, more fiat has to be printed to continue to pay the debt moving forward, pay the interest moving forward. And what happens when you print any asset, people in crypto watching this know, If there is more supply or an asset is inflationary, then of course it makes it much harder for that price to go up or the value of that asset to go up as well. So, fiat is down and to the right. The US dollar is the best fiat in the world. And look at what it has done over the past 5 years. Globally, fiat is massively down and to the right. And you need to get out of that. And that's via investments in stocks, Bitcoin, crypto. And of course, we like to be a little more degenerate and chase some microcap gems.
So is that your Trojan horse into DeFi, teaching people how to break free?
Well, I think it, like Ian was saying, Crypto Armor was saying, until people have a baseline understanding of basic finance, like even most people don't even understand how spending power of the dollar goes down. They're like, what do you mean? A dollar's a dollar? No, that's not how it works. You got to get them to understand the basics of inflation, the basics of investing in even S&P 500, the basics of investing in Bitcoin. And then once you get them in, that's the Trojan horse. Be like, oh, you saw some green candles in Bitcoin. Now maybe we should get in Ethereum because I think Ethereum is going to outperform Bitcoin. Oh, I was right. Ethereum went up 20%. Bitcoin went up 10. All right, maybe you should listen to me again and let's go grab a bag of Pulse Chain, PLS, because that should do 5x of what Ethereum does. And you kind of trickle their way in. And by the time you get them all the way to the finish line, it might be towards the end of the bull cycle. So they might be higher up on that S curve. But now they're in, now their feet are wet, and they'll be prepared for the next cycle. Nobody gets rich overnight. And the people who did do very well, including myself in 2016 and 2017, you ended up round tripping a lot of those bags because you were learning along the way. DeFi is a new application. Your gains are tremendous, but you're not thinking about taking profits at the top. It's just the nature of the game. It's just what happens.
So how do you teach your crowd to be safe? Because it can be a very, very risky circumstance that people get themselves into. How do you teach them how to maneuver the DeFi streets with a little bit more safety?
Well, I mean, our community, the CryptoParadise community, they're not newbies. Some are newer than others, right? And Nick actually does a great job with his Learn Crypto business and sort of teach, tutelage, you could say, to bring in maybe some more newer people. But a lot of the folks within CryptoParadise, the surf holders, for example, surfs on Pulse Chain, it's more advanced. A lot of people have at least rudimentary understanding of called OPSEC, operational security. But we're often doing reminders. I mean, we're talking about security and wallet sort of best practices on a pretty regular basis in our DAO group and in the wider Crypto Paradise Telegram. We talk about these things. We try to give the best advice we can on security and keeping your funds safe. And for example, we have a partnership with Emit Farms, which is DeFi, farming protocol on Pulse Chain. There's some surf pairs, up on their farm, and we had some people okay, how do we get involved with this? And so we're talking about basic stuff. Hey, maybe you want to farm. Not that we think it's unsafe, but just operational security best practices. Take a fresh wallet. Don't do your farming and don't do any of your DeFi on a MetaMask that holds $100,000, a lot of money for you. Don't do it on that wallet. Move that money off into a cold storage if you can, or just keep it completely don't connect to any DeFi stuff. And then you could have a wall that's a fresh wall that has less capital on that you're doing DeFi stuff. So just little things, little advice like that. Look, we've all been through it, man. Like hacks, scams, phishing. I mean, we've all either experienced it directly or just one degree of separation. We've heard the horror stories. So we're doing our best to educate the community, but I think we're fortunate that a lot of our guys are more like quote OGs, and they've probably been burned themselves, and so they're pretty smart with how they handle stuff. I don't know, Nick, if you see it any differently.
Well, I think if it's too good to be true, it probably is. Now there's a lot more tools. Back then, you didn't have Dex Tools and Dex Screener giving you audits in real time. If it's a honeypot, what the taxes are, is there 100% sell tax? Like, use these tools. Use Dex Tools, use Dex Screener. Now, the audits aren't always correct. We saw even on the Surf token launch, it had it was like, 80% green, a couple reds, and a couple yellows. And it's like, oh, people might question that. And then as, the audit refreshes and it goes through the code, it starts changing to green and yellow. But still, it's going to give you a good baseline. And, if something has a sell tax of 100%, that means if you go to sell it, you can't get any money out. It's a honeypot, essentially. They have the honeypot indicators, which tell you don't buy that. So if it's too good to be true from a Ponzi scheme tokenomics, don't get involved with it because, yes, you might win at some point, but you're going to get burned. Number two, it's real easy to use these automatically generated audits that Dex Tools, Dex Screener, CoinGecko, CoinMarketCap have. That's something that we didn't have before. So use that. Take a look before you just FOMO in and buy stuff. Also, being in groups. There's plenty of mastermind groups, the Surf DAO group, the Learn Crypto group. A lot of people bounce ideas off each other there. Hey, guys, have you seen this scammer or this phishing link or whatever? And when you're in those groups, you'll be made aware of somebody else's horror story so you can avoid it yourself. And then, of course, the one that is old as time is no matter what email you get or who you think it's from or if you think it's legit or not, never, ever give anybody your private keys, not even your wife, not even your kid. That's just my opinion. Maybe you have them stashed in a safe that says, hey, if I die, get into the safe and there's private keys in there. But other than that, don't give anybody your private keys, not even Coinbase, because they're not asking for it.
Don't even have the picture on your phone. Don't even, yeah. So why Pulse Chain? You guys have done pretty well. Surf's doing well. You guys onboarded a lot of people onto Pulse Chain. You guys are accumulating holders every day. So why Pulse Chain?
Well, I guess I can talk about it from more of a novice perspective because I'm new to Pulse Chain. Like Nick, right, who is day one sacrificer and Hex guy and so on and so forth. A couple of things that jumped out to me about Pulse Chain. I'll tell a story though about the Surf launch because that'll I think help explain the answer a bit more. So when we decided we wanted to have a token associated with CryptoParadise, we said, all right, we're going to take a lot of the mistakes and lessons we've learned over the years as advisors on other projects and be involved in other projects, and we're going to try to do things differently. One of the core differences was that we said, all right, we're going to outsource pretty much every major decision to this DAO group, and we were fortunate to have an existing group of guys who we've been doing pre-sales with and other investment opportunities with for a long time. And so we started to ask them questions and do polls in the group. And so one of them obviously was, what chain should we launch Surf on? By the way, they also named the token Surf. So the DAO has been instrumental in these major decisions. And so obviously you had the usual cast of characters in terms of chains, Solana, ETH, Base, whatever, all, I don't know, Arbitrum was there. And then we have Pulse Chain there. And initially, Pulse Chain was not a popular choice. Maybe some of the guys there who knew about it were bullish on it. But if you weren't already in there, you were voting for the safe, Ethereum option or whatever. And then Nick started educational, sort of explanatory teacher, put on his teacher hat, explaining us about Pulse Chain and some of the opportunities over there. And it's really amazing. It's a gem. I think if you like DeFi and you own communities, almost a cult-like, almost like a meme community, and then you have the fact that with these tax tokens, web, you can have these kind of sustainable ecosystems itself. And we know there's always going to be trading volume as long as the token's active and the team is active. There's always people looking to buy and sell. Then you can have a real long-term success story with automatic burns, LP ads, and so on and so forth. So once Nick kind of explained that, we got enough people vote, okay, yeah, we want to do on Pulse Chain, do something a little bit different. And I think if you were to poll the DAO group now, it would be 100 people are happy, in fact, ecstatic to launch on Pulse Chain to the point that projects that we were working with their capacities or projects that introduced us for marketing, we're helping a commission because we're actually not true believers in Pulse Chain because it really is fantastic with the cult-like mentality, sustainability, liquidity web, everything going on. True hidden gem. Couldn't be happier to launch over on Pulse Chain.
Yeah, and kind of the way you're breaking up there a little bit, Ian, but we heard what you were saying. What I was saying when I got them to convert their votes from BSC and Ethereum and Base to Pulse Chain, it's just like, hey guys, we gave you the call about PTGC at like $1 million or $2 million. At the time, PTGC was running above $100 million on its way to $350 million. And I'm saying, look, here's the opportunity. Pulse Chain has been down to the right since it launched. It's a cycle one narrative, layer one, that has $166,000 worth of ETH or 166,000 ETH in its speculation bag, the Pulse Chain Sacrifice Wallet. It has a Chad and Richard Hart that I believed was going to beat the SEC. And yes, there is some risks, but as these things unwind, Pulse Chain should do very well. And if we launch while Pulse Chain valuations are low, we're LP bonded to that. So when all those blue chips rise, we'll be able to ride that wave of green candles as well. And if we just do what we do, we have enough people in this group. We can onboard people. We can kind of get into the Pulse Chain degens and get people believing in Surf as well. And we can create a nice floor while we wait for that to happen. And utilizing the liquidity web that kind of PTGC created over on Pulse Chain first, utilizing tax token ecosystem. Of course, PTGC was one of the first and best ones on Pulse Chain, but tax tokens has been around since 2017. That is one DeFi application that was around and in the trenches all the way back then. It was occurring on Ethereum, then it was occurring on BSC. The problem with those ones is they were only bonding to one asset. They were only bonding to Ethereum, or they're only bonding to BNB. Also, it wasn't ingrained in the smart contract to actually benefit the token. So when the developers or teams got tired, bored, bear market, or whatever, they can just direct those tax tokens to their own pocket rather than building up and incentivizing token holders or benefiting the project. That's something that is different here on Pulse Chain. We see it with PTGC, we see it with UFO, we see it with Surf, and many others as these functions, the automatic buys and burns, the automatic LP ads, the automatic reflection rewards are all embedded in the smart contract. So no matter what happens to us, they're going to keep running in the background as long as the token exists. So we took all of that. We understand the token economics. We understand the risk parameter. The DAO voted for Pulse Chain, and we went with Pulse Chain. What's unique about this is at the time, 60 to 70% of the DAO never once used Pulse Chain, haven't interacted with it, didn't even have it in their MetaMask. And by doing the Surf launch there, by doing the Surf airdrop to their DAO members, it forced all those people to add Pulse Chain to their MetaMask to receive the Surf tokens, start interacting with the Pulse Chain and Pulse Chain blue chips. And that was our step one of onboarding people to Pulse Chain. And we keep wanting to onboard people now because we believe that if we're right, of course, we get clout for being right. And getting people into Pulse Chain at these levels is a no-brainer in our opinion for when it comes to risk to reward parameters. And it's very easy for our CryptoParadise community to win once the rally begins.
Yes, you guys don't really need much motivation. You guys have all the momentum you guys need. So, yeah, we're waiting on Ethereum, but we see a lot of accumulation here with Ethereum. What's it going to take for us to get to the other side? What do you anticipate from Ethereum here short term?
Probably just time. To me, it feels inevitable. It's highly undervalued relative to Bitcoin, which is at 110,000. Ethereum's at 2,500 or 2,600 after this recent pump. I mean, that's probably one of the lowest differentials we've had in years. So it's going to run. I think we were, kind of heading towards $3,000 ETH before the Iran-Israel conflict reared its ugly head. That's obviously since been resolved, thank goodness. I think there's more catalysts, positive catalysts on the horizon than there are potential headwinds. So, for example, this big, beautiful bill getting passed, that's a big deal. That's tax cuts coming to all Americans, all income earners. So that's big. And then, it does increase the deficit. Hard assets start to look better. The Fed is likely going to cut. I don't know if it's going to be in July. I think there's probably going to be a split decision and ends up being no cut, which will be an unfortunate thing because we had a jobs report that came out today or yesterday that was, pretty strong. So I don't know if we'll end up cutting rates, in July versus September, but they're going to end up cutting rates. That's a positive headwind. The M2 money supply keeps rising and increasing as well. And the biggest thing probably on a narrative standpoint for ETH is this Ethereum strategic reserve, right? Like the fact that Tom Lee, he's one of the principals at Fundstrat. He's always doing his rounds on CNBC, et cetera. And he himself has just joined a company which they didn't do the Bitcoin strategic reserve. They're doing the ETH strategic reserve. You saw the founder of Ethereum, or the co-founder, I should say, Joseph Lubin, do his. More will come online. If you're a smart investor, this is how I look at it, right? You got Bitcoin at 110,000, and obviously Bitcoin's done incredibly well this cycle, right? 15 to 110. Wow, it's probably going to go higher. Might make another 2x from here or more. We'll see. But Ethereum, I think, has at least a 4x in front of it, maybe even a 5. And so, for my money, that risk reward, ETH is looking better than Bitcoin right now. And I think you're going to start to see more and more investors say, I'm not doing this Bitcoin strategic reserve. I'm being a little bit different. Try to get a bit more upside, can generate yield too, because I can stake the ETH or use it within DeFi. I'm going to be a little bit different with this E strategic reserve. And you start to get enough of those, and then the buy pressure overwhelms the sell pressure. Manipulation ends up going the other way, and you have a major run back towards all-time highs. So to me, ETH undervalued here, probably better than Bitcoin. Not financial advice like you said, but for my money, if I had $10,000 and I didn't want to take a lot of risk, I wanted to put it in crypto, I'm putting in ETH rather than Bitcoin.
Yeah, going back to our onboarding question, I've actually switched starting a couple weeks back. I actually switched when people are talking about, hey, my dad has a little money in crypto, or hey, I want to put a little money in crypto. Like you said, usually it's just like, hey, go to Coinbase, get Bitcoin, and then we'll go from there. Once you get to that point, you prove to me that you're serious, and then we can get in the weeds. Well, instead of saying Bitcoin, I've actually switched it instead of Ethereum. And that is partially due to the run that we've seen out of Bitcoin, the massive underperformance that we've seen out of ETH. And I've been predicting that this Ethereum strategic reserve narrative would come online. So I was trying to get people into that. Prices are still sitting here 2,600. So that's, for my money, what I would be saying as well. It looks like to me, based on the macros that are going on, the upcoming Ethereum upgrades, the spot ETF getting the yield from Ethereum staking, the money for me is, if you're choosing your low risk first entry into crypto is ETH over Bitcoin. And me saying that is great for the people and the OGs here, because inevitably you guys have a lot of altcoin positions that you need to do well. Or if you're watching this stream, you're probably on Pulse Chain, which kind of is relying on Ethereum to lead the way for speculation and LP bonding. So ETH looks good to me here. The macro looks great to me. And I think buckle up. Things are going to get exciting soon.
Yeah, the SEC, I guess the final date is here in a couple days. So maybe Monday we'll get some type of clarity. But, the bears were getting exhausted. And it seems as though even some bulls were getting exhausted, just kind of waiting. But that's why I felt like it was important for the show to begin the right timing. It's like, dude, we have all the energy, and we're just waiting on ETH. But as soon as I turn that money printer on, man, we should be good to go.
Yeah, I mean, there's some Pulse Chain bulls who have been getting exhausted. There's been that major whale who has sold nearly all of his bags, swapping all of his PLSX to PLS, getting it to ETH and full porting it for Ethereum, giving up on Pulse Chain. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's a lot cheaper to get him out now at the lows than it is after a 50%, 2x, 3x, 4x. So it's not a bad thing in the long term, but it just shows how fatigued people are in the layer ones, in the layer twos, in the altcoins. And people are like, well, why should Pulse Chain have to rely on Ethereum? Well, there's several reasons. Number one, Ethereum is the largest and major layer one network. It uses EVM technology, which runs almost all the other altcoin layer ones and layer twos. And it has a ton of LP bonding with many altcoins in its network. Number two, for Pulse Chain, not only is it encouraging retail investors and all the other altcoin market, which makes the entire market speculation on, you also have the speculation because the Pulse Chain sacrifice wallet has over 166,000 Ethereum. If Ethereum price goes up, people start thinking, how could that money be used to pump Pulse Chain? And then number three is there is LP bonding with Pulse Chain and Ethereum, meaning there is PLS to ETH liquidity. There is EHEX to ETH liquidity. When Ethereum rises, it helps drag those prices up higher as well. And then momentum and morale picks up, and that is when people FOMO into green candles. So it all goes together, guys. Ethereum for the foreseeable future. Bitcoin is the index of crypto. Ethereum is the index of altcoins. That's just the way it's been. Could there be another dominant force? Yes, BSC is catching up. Yes, Solana is catching up. But remember, BSC still is a layer 2 of Ethereum. Essentially, it's a layer 1, but it uses EVM compatibility. They use a lot of the same dev upgrades. It uses the same wallets and MetaMask. It has the same holder base from the OGs when that thing launched. So Ethereum still drives this altcoin market, and that's why everybody is looking to ETH in order to get risk on.
Man, you guys are very informative. I really appreciate you guys coming on the show. So what do you guys think of Richard's latest tweets? Because it seems to have rattled a lot of people on both sides of the spectrum.
Well, if you're referring to the tweet where he's sort of insinuating that he's going to do a mail-based marketing campaign, I absolutely love it. I absolutely love that, right? That's innovation. That's different. And I mean, it shows how this guy's brain works. And I know he's done something similar in the past. So there is a precedent for this kind of mail-based marketing campaign that he may or may not do. I was thinking about this too, because I'm the kind of guy that I'm straightforward. I don't like beating around the bush. I just say it how it is. But he's cryptic in how he communicates. And I'm starting to think maybe that's actually the better way to go, right? Leave a little mystery, leave a little, what could be, right? I don't. That's not how I am personally, but so he's very cryptic. He's very, very kind of like, it's ambiguous, vague, however you want to say that. So I like that. Some of the other tweets that he does, I'm like, what the hell is this? Where he's talking about like taking a piss in 2 streams or this and that. We were joking around about this on another show, and it's like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing, man? Like, I don't need I guess look, it's like anybody. You take the good with the bad. So maybe that's a part of his like eccentric, he's apparently some genius level guy. So I guess he's gonna say some eccentric, weird shit sometimes. But on the flip side, he's gonna have these amazing, epiphany, brilliant ideas at times too. So you take the good with the bad. I do hope that the mail order or whatever that is, marketing campaign materializes. That would be quite disappointing, right? If he's insinuating it, making people seem like he's doing it, and then he just doesn't do it. That would be a big issue. But I like it, man. I'm happy. I want his shackles fully removed. I want this Interpol case to be resolved, settle whatever needs to be settled. And let's get him back on live stream. Let's get him back fully on X. Let's get him back out there showing this thing. That's a big, huge, I should say, catalyst coming for Pulse Chain. And I hope it happens sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I'd kind of say the same thing. He's always been cryptic and eccentric, but I think the SEC case could get fully resolved here in 3 days. That kind of gives him freedom of speech, and maybe he won't be as cryptic. Maybe he'll do more recorded videos. And once the Interpol case gets settled, which I think it will, his lawyers have settled or prevented other Interpol cases in the past. If you look that up, it's public information. I think he will settle that, and that will give him freedom of movement and freedom of live show. The reason he doesn't do live shows is it's a little bit harder to cover up where you're at if you're going live. It's famously how John McAfee ended up getting caught, getting thrown in prison, and committing suicide. So I'm sure Richard Hart doesn't want to do that and risk that. So once the Interpol case gets resolved, that's when we see live shows. That's when we see freedom of movement as well. He's a big advocate of freedom of speech, freedom of movement, freedom of life, and always talks about how if you're not able to do those things, are you truly free? And I think once these cases are resolved, he'll get back on the stomping grounds, probably with some security, but get his face out there, get on interviewers, get on streams, get doing his own live show. And that, like you said, is just a big momentum builder, a big trust builder for Pulse Chain and for the future of any assets that are built on Pulse Chain.
Yeah, Pulse Chain is the people's chain. I mean, it does not get more grassroots than this. I mean, the block explorers that have been created by the people, the sniping tools, the portfolio viewers, everything that we have on Pulse Chain is made by the people. There's no venture capitalist money. There's no big funds here. It's really like, I mean, as grassroots as it can get. It's like a fresh start in crypto compared to every other chain that we've traversed because of the VC presence that has been there before.
Yeah, I look at that as a net positive, right? I mean, it has that grassroots, that cult-like, fervent belief behind it from the community members. I don't think if you were to ask, you're the average crypto guy, what's your thoughts on Aptos? What's your thoughts on C Network, whatever the fuck it's called, Arbitrum, Base? No one feels strongly about those at all. They're like, all right, whatever. There's money to be made over there. Cool. But you talk about Pulse Chain, and man, people are super passionate about it. They love it. They're maxis, and I think that's due mostly to Richard Hart and how he inspires people and leads people. I also think, like you mentioned, it's due to the fact there were no VCs that really were involved with Pulse Chain. On the flip side, though, we always try to point out the positive and the negative. The flip side is that for whatever reason, Pulse Chain hasn't been really accepted by the powers that be within crypto. The other companies, third party providers like the exchanges, for example, centralized exchanges like don't list Pulse Chain stuff. Apparently, it was it was not on CoinGecko or CoinMarketCap for a while, if I recall. So just different little things like that is a bit of an annoyance, frankly, and I don't really get it. Like, maybe if you felt Richard Hart was a scammer 4 or 5 years ago, like, clearly he's not. Clearly Hex it turned out to be legit, and so why are you so against it still? That's what I would say to those folks. But yeah, it's a little frustrating that like Binance stuff hasn't listed PLS, etc. But otherwise, man, I love it. I love the grassroots. It's so much better than these VC chains that no one really gives a shit about.
Yeah, I think a couple things with the exchanges and acceptance. Number one, you don't have VCs or Richard Hart spending money behind the scenes. We know they spend and give a fortune to those exchanges, and they also give a ton of tokens. So that could be one of the things deterring it. But we do know centralized exchanges and these products will list you if you have a big enough community and enough volume. What I think, and I'm hoping, has given them hesitation is the SEC case is technically still open and the Interpol case. So those are two more things where once the SEC case is resolved in 3 days and Interpol case is resolved in 1 month, 2 months from now, that maybe that gives those centralized exchanges who are now more heavily regulated than ever the kind of green light to accept Pulse Chain. It's really easy for them to add it. It's not a dev situation. It's an EVM compatible chain. Probably takes their devs less than half a day, and then they just need to scrounge up capital to put the initial liquidity and injection of PLS, PLSX, HEX, whatever they want to list. So I'm hoping it's just regulatory concerns since the SEC case is technically still open and the Interpol case is still open as well.
Yeah, I mean, all that's kind of noise. I mean, the people here have been they how do I word this properly? There's more people here. So give me 1 second. The people are still here. The people of Pulse Chain, they've been building, and we haven't seen those God candles yet. So it's like, yeah, we're undervalued, and the people are still here. So there's still utility. There's still hope. You know, we're not trying to sell anybody a dream. We're not really forcing anything. That's why I feel like Pulse Chain has a lot of power, because the efforts to do DeFi it's not forced.
I think there's a lot of community in Pulse Chain too that is kind of dormant right now. You know, they maybe sacrificed and they're doing most of their stuff on ETH and BSC, and they're not going to dust their tokens. Maybe they're OGs. So like, I'm not dusting my PLS. You know, it's down 80% since launch. I'm not dusting. And once we get green candles, those people can come back and be active again and decide to be active within Pulse Chain, buying altcoins or, you know, spreading the word on Twitter, or they can exit the system. We'll see what happens. But I think, you know, the core cult is still there, but there's still a ton of dormant holders that I think get loud and get active again once green candles start coming. Green candles are the best marketing in crypto. It's just the nature of the beast. And people get that dopamine hit when the number in their wallet starts going up. You wake up and you're like, it's 1,000. The next morning you wake up, it's 1,100. The next morning you wake up, it's 1,200. Well, now you got a lot more energy to go and brag about, talk about, and spread the word of Pulse Chain.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't even started yet. So I'm very excited for our future here on Pulse Chain. You guys are onboarding more than just investors. You guys are also onboarding development teams, right? Yeah,
Crypto Amaru hinted at it a little bit. So there's a couple projects that we worked with. One was an AI project looking to launch on BSC network. We convinced them to come to Pulse Chain. They'll be launching at the end of July or August. Another one is a real RWA play. They wanted to launch on Base. They're going to be redeploying on Pulse Chain. They have like $1 million glamping site. So what's interesting about this is the AI play, the team is full of developers, and they're going to be coming over to Pulse Chain. Their product is already launched. They've integrated Pulse Chain into their suite of AI products. And once it launches, it's ready to go. So that was a good onboarding. And with all these onboardings, it's kind of a I scratch your back, you scratch our back. A, we want to bring them to Pulse Chain because we believe they have an opportunity. But B, we have the surf token. So it's like, hey, instead of charging you X amount of dollars, how about you embed a functionality within the surf token moving forward? So both of these projects that will be launching at end of July, early August will be buying and burning surf indefinitely as long as they exist, which means there's other teams, other developers, other communities that will be pushing Pulse Chain and trying to onboard people to Pulse Chain at the same time buying and burning the surf token. And we're not having to do too much work. We're going to hop on some calls with them. We're going to promote them. We're going to talk about them, get involved. But that's what we're doing, and that's kind of what we want to do moving forward. So if we're able to onboard those two, and RhinoFi is actually a Pulse Chain native project that will be launching here on Tuesday, next Tuesday. They're going to be providing, the 8th. They're going to be providing utility for Surf. They're going to be buying up Surf, doing initial LP of Surf. So if we're able to onboard 3 teams, 3 projects, 3 utilities for Surf in the bear market, you can imagine how this thing can kind of stem out as we get greener candles when there's actually more retail users in the market, when there's actually more demand of developers looking to build, when there's more money for these teams to be able to create on their ideas and their visions. That's what we're going to do, and we're just getting started. But yes, 3 projects between now and the end of August will be coming to Pulse Chain, partially because of CryptoParadise, providing value to Surf token holders, and of course providing value to Pulse Chain as a network, because it is a new project, a new team, and new communities that are going to get their toes wet over here in Pulse Chain.
Yeah, so we have a little bit of everything over here. What tools do you show your crowd that we have on Pulse Chain? Like, what are your favorite tools that you guys use in terms of, you know, portfolio viewers or
Yeah, no, I can answer some of that. I mean, you know, all the standard tools basically work on Pulse Chain, like Dex Screener, Dex Tools, etc. One tool that I found I think works very well from kind of a viewer standpoint, portfolio viewer standpoint, is OKX wallet. I always recommend that when people are like, "Where's my Surf airdrop?" You know, because the Surf token has reflections, ongoing reflection rewards that get airdropped to people's wallets every day based on the volume. And where are my rewards? I'm gonna see my rewards. Check OKX wallet. You'll see, you know, you're getting Surf airdropped every few hours. You know what I mean? So I like OKX wallet. I do think some of the tooling from a UX or actually UI standpoint, like kind of a design standpoint, leaves a little bit to be desired. Like the blockchain explorers are a little rudimentary. Don't have all the functions you're used to on Etherscan or BSC scan. Even PulseX, whatever the DEX is called, right? I think it's called PulseX, is a little, you know, doesn't. I mean, it works great. It works perfectly fine. It just doesn't look quite as sleek, quite as sexy and like high end to say a Uniswap. That's probably because it's grassroots. It doesn't have big VC backing. But yeah, I mean, look, Pulse Chain's got it all, man. It's got it. It's got all the tools you need. It's got the community aspect. It's got the innovation on the DeFi side, and we're doing our part. I would say one thing for a turnover, Nick. The folks selling out now, and honestly, this applies not just to Pulse Chain, but to anyone who's just looking to sell at a loss. You're holding it all, sell at a loss. Summer's never good for alts. I just feel you got to understand where you are in this cycle. If you need money now, sure, I get it. But if you're just taking a loss because you're like tired of holding, look, investing requires patience. You need to understand the cycles. You know where we are in this cycle. And I just feel like those people by the end of this year, typically the end of the year is when the market's good, especially the year after the halving like we just had, especially when Trump's in office, that's when the fireworks happen. So why are you selling in the summer? Nothing good happens in the summer in investing. So just hang on. I know everyone's bored and down and all the bags are down and this and that. But, unless you need the money now, like I just feel selling in the summer makes very little sense.
Yeah, and I think I use Dex Tools, Dex Screener, which are more like OG tools, but they've now utilize an integrated Pulse Chain. So why not use them? I think OKX Wallet has done a great job. I want to see more of the scanners get a little better. Otter Scan is one that we use, but it's still missing some components. X Protocol just launched a sniper bot for Pulse Chain, so I'm going to be checking that out, especially with some of these upcoming launches, as that's a trusted development suite over there. And I did use Gold Pulse a lot. Kind of have a 50-50 opinion on them now, kind of extractors of the network, the GoPost token. So we won't get into that. But it was nice that pulsechain.com got the upgrade. So when I'm just looking at prices at a glance, I can just go to pulsechain.com and use that rather than GoPost, which is kind of what I use that for. I don't overcomplicate my trading. I don't overcomplicate my due diligence. I use the tooling and I use the indicators that have proven track records. And when you get too many variables and too much complexities, you do one of two things. You either overthink it and you get paralysis by overanalysis, or you start to break what has worked over the long term. You add on too many different components that don't have proven track records, and you find yourself in the hole. So I would just say keep it simple, keep it sleek, use what you like to use. Maybe you're missing some data sets, but if your brain can just at a glance get way more data from a tool that you feel comfortable using, and now it utilizes Pulse Chain or accepts Pulse Chain, I would just keep doing that until it fails you.
Have you used the the sniper bot from the X protocol?
I've not personally used it yet, but I've been on a live show with Coach when he was doing a demo utilizing it, and we've been talking behind the scenes in private chats on some of the use cases for the sniper bot and the DEX moving forward. It
is fast. I mean, that it is a great tool.
I'm excited to use it. We got
we got that RhinoFi launch on Tuesday of next week. So anyone looking to get in early and use whatever tools at your disposal, you go ahead and do that. RhinoFi, I think, is going to be a huge winner on Pulse Chain. For those who are not familiar with it, I definitely recommend checking them out. But yeah, it's funny you mentioned the sniper tools. Always a divisive sort of topic. But what's great about Pulse Chain, because it seems like most of the tokens anyway have these sell taxes, the issues that typically would arise with like snipers, whatever, is very much mitigated because they got in early, whatever, and they sold fast. But if they paid a big buy tax and they paid a big sell tax, and that got recycled to the true believers, call it, then that's not such a bad thing. So I know RhinoFi is kind of planning on there being snipers, because there will be, and they may use tools like you would mention. But for my money, I don't really mind it. Generates volume, brings money in for the DAO or brings burning or LP ads, etc. So bring on the snipers as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, yeah, and that's just one tool. I mean, there's a lot of aggregators, a lot of exchanges that we use on Pulse Chain to execute our trades, which is very neat. But yeah,
I do like that sniper is exclusively running through PulseX. I know a lot of people like 9mm and different things. I'm a very big advocate on trying to use PulseX whenever I can, and I like that sniper bot runs through PulseX. And why is that? That is because PulseX actually, all the stuff that's running through there, the fees are being used to buy and burn PulseX itself. And I understand how LP bonding works. And if PLSX goes up, it's going to drive Ink up and Pulse up and the other blue chips up. So I want as much utilization of the Pulse network, the Pulse token, the PulseX default platforms, because the way that this was built by the dev, by Richard Hart, by whoever, it's a very benevolent network. And that's why I think over time it's going to win, because a lot of the fees are being recycled back into those blue chips via locks, via burns, via whatever. And that's what I like to see. So I will say shout out to X Protocol, because right now all that is running through PulseX liquidity, which is much more beneficial for the network as a whole.
Yeah, speaking of PulseX itself, I mean, it's a deflationary coin, and then I see that like your top pools are with deflationary assets, PTGC, X, PulseX. So when you have a hyper deflationary coin paired with other deflationary assets, you get fireworks. We haven't actually seen the full effects of that yet, but I'm very excited to see where this deflation allows us to find value in.
Yeah, that's the math and the mindset. We got a glimpse of that proof of concept with PTGC's run, and that proof of concept plus the math plus the history that we've learned from other chains would tell us, as long as Ethereum performs moderately, $5,000, $8,000, $10,000, and then Pulse Chain follows suit with its LP bonding and speculation, then assets that we like and talk about, we've already mentioned a bunch of them, are going to do very well due to the token economics being deflationary, due to their incentivization of holders to hold long term, and then let the LPs do their magic and the deflation do their magic. Supply and demand, guys. If supply continues to shrink and demand stays flat or increases, that's when you get fireworks. It's not that hard of a concept, and Pulse Chain has a lot of projects that are very benevolent under the hood. Everything is encoded into the smart contract. So now you just need patience. You need price performance of the blue chips, price performance of Ethereum, and you're going to win in a big way.
What a concept, right?
What a concept. Yeah, I will say this about Surf in relation to the discussion around, deflationary, including webs, token tax type coins. The one, I think, unique thing about Surf, compared to some of the other projects that are or token economics, is that we're fundamentally a marketing channel, right? We do advisory work as a business. So we're a bit differentiated, right? Because, one of the main utilities of the Surf token, you hold 200,000 Surf, you can enter the DAO, which is a private Telegram group. Decisions are made there vis-a-vis, the Surf token, et cetera. But really the big is the alpha that you get, the calls, early alpha opportunities. For example, like Rhino-Fi is a good example. We've had a lot of great calls, or even during this bearish period. One called Fuck 9 to 5 that did over 10x. So, being a part of that group is a big value add for people, and it kind of keeps our floor nice and solid. So you add that to the fact that, yes, it's the liquidity web, all the deflationary stuff that you mentioned. And then you add the fact that we are a marketing channel. I mean, we're doing spaces and like live streams, and we're just putting ourselves out there every day because we love it. I mean, that's what we love to do. So, no shortage of marketing, so it's, to me, not to toot our own horn or anything. Obviously, I'm biased, but, CryptoParadise is bringing something unique with the Surf token. It's not just a copy paste of the same old DeFi stuff happening on Pulse Chain. There's other elements to it, like the DAO, like the marketing channel, that make it unique for Pulse Chain.
So what advice would you give to the people on Pulse Chain now, or the people that are a little curious about Pulse Chain and haven't dipped their toes in yet?
I did a quick 2-minute video of me actually singing. I just actually retweeted it today about just explaining the opportunity, how Ethereum success will provide value to Pulse Chain. And it's as simple as going to pulsechain.com, scroll down, are you ready to get started? Hit the bridge button, and you can bridge Ethereum directly from your EVM, ETH, MetaMask wallet to Pulse Chain, hop on PulseX, and do your first swap. It's kind of the same thing. It's like, hey, get the Pulse Chain, get your favorite blue chip. I prefer PLSX. I think it will outperform over time. We saw that when it went to 1-to-1 parity with PLS. And then once you feel comfortable with that, then you can start going into other altcoins. But I think to get people excited, you got to kind of give them an understanding, or the speculation that we talk about, hey, Richard Hart's about to be unleashed, beating the SEC, the leverage on Ethereum due to LP bonding, the 166,000 ETH that people are speculating is going to be used to pump Pulse Chain. And will all 4 of these things happen? I don't know, but will 3 or 4 happen? Probably. And once people get that speculation in their mind and they're trying to figure out ways to outperform, that's when they'll dip their toe in, then their foot in, then a bulk of their portfolio in. But in order for that to happen, it comes down to green candles. If people pull up the PLS chart, they're not going to get excited. If they pull up the Ethereum chart, they're not going to get excited. They're still wanting to chase Bitcoin because it looks so much prettier on the chart. But really, they need to change their mindset and understand, hey, that's run its course. I'm saying 244,000 Bitcoin by the end of the year, but Ethereum could go to 10,000 by the end of the year. Well, then Pulse Chain can do a 5x of that of Ethereum, could do 25x from here or higher. So, you just got to get people in the door, get them seeing some green candles, and they'll FOMO in and keep bridging more.
Yeah, I mean, every dollar that goes into Bitcoin is good for the crypto market in general. So yeah, we do have some good stuff ahead of us. I don't think people were saying we were on a left translated cycle, or left-handed translated cycle, or whatever. And a lot of people were really nervous, and some people are a little on edge. They're a little impatient. But that's because a lot of people's expectations are very high.
Yeah, and I mean, by now in the cycle, we would have thought Ethereum would be performing better, which means that alts would be performing at least a little better. But really, true euphoria is poised to happen end of this quarter, early Q4 2025 by the end of the year. And we've been on record saying that, hey, this could be the breaking of the 4-year happening for it extending into 2026 based on all the macro factors. But really, this isn't out of the norm. Besides, yes, Ethereum is underperformed. Yes, your alts could be higher. But like Crypto Amaru is probably about to say, you probably shouldn't have been looking to sell to Q4 2025 anyway. So if things are kind of stalled and building up momentum, the euphoria always was scheduled to happen in Q4 2025, and we're still right on pace for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact of the matter is vast majority of people will not bridge over to Pulse Chain, or frankly any, chain outside of the ones they're used to, Solana and maybe Ethereum, until the market is such that they think they're going to get gains over there. Most people, right, 90+% of people do not buy the red. They buy the green. So it's just like, yeah, like Hitman said, I mean, you need the green candles. No one's going to lift a finger. I honestly, I'm thinking about my journey. I started out Ethereum, my altcoin journey, everything I invested in was on Ethereum. I don't even think BSC wasn't even a chain. Then the chain comes out. I wasn't going to go over there unless there was financial opportunity. If it was a bear market and everything's going down, 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 I'm not going to waste my time bridging over. I'm just not, right? Like, and that's 90% of the people. So does that mean that things are always going to be bad and, we're never going to get out? No, we keep saying to folks that because of the way Pulse Chain is tied to Ethereum, right? Very literally tied to Ethereum with liquidity pools and the sacrifice wallet, etc. That once Ethereum is going, and it's going to go, right? It's going to go at some point here. It always does. At some point in the cycle, Ethereum has a moment. Then Pulse Chain is going to run, and that's when folks are going to be FOMOing in and bridging over. I want to catch this Greek candle, this and that. Until then, it's going to be more of the same. More of the same, unfortunately. And look, for those who are patient and want to take that risk, that 10% who buy the red, hey, they're the ones that make all the money. The guys chasing the green, I mean, they'll make something, assuming they sell at the right time. But they ain't going to make as much as the guys that bought the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity, and we're still in a good spot. Shout out to all my tradesmen, everybody out there working to DCA at these bottoms. I got a few of my coworkers in Pulse Chain, and they have questions, but we're still here. So.
Yeah, we tell people that too. It's like now is when you want to get your friends, family, coworkers involved because yes, they might have to live through some short-term, maybe a little more red pain, but you're probably closer to the bottom than you are the top. And you getting them in down here, you will be the hero as the green candles start coming. Also, if you get them to buy the top, then you got to listen to them cry and complain about the red candles for the next bear market. So I know it's not easy. You probably don't have the energy to want to do it. You're doubting yourself, but now is the time to get your friends and family involved. The macros are flashing on Bitcoin. The macros are flashing on Ethereum. There is no retail investors in the market right now. You have to make the decision. Do you have conviction that blockchain and crypto and altcoins are here to stay? If the answer is yes, it is much better to get your friends, family, yourself buying down here than trying to get them onboarded while things are going up 10% a day. Because inevitably there will be pullbacks even during the euphoric phase, 30% drawdowns, 20% drawdowns, and you want them to be in the green rather than the red because they will be knocking on your door, texting you, what's going on? Oh my gosh, I lost my lunch money. And that's never fun.
Man, I'm really grateful for the time that we've had, but we're kind of running out of time. Where can we find you guys?
Yeah, follow us on X. It's at CryptoParadise on Twitter or X. We also have the YouTube channel. We're dropping content daily over there as well. CryptoParadise. I forget the exact link there. Of course, go to our website, CryptoParadise.net. You can learn more about the Surf token, the utilities behind that. You can learn more about the DAO, how to enter the DAO, getting your 200,000 Surf, and how to enter there. You can see some of the other stuff we got coming up. The retreat, which, by the way, we'd love to have you on the retreat. So let's talk more about that as well. But yeah, CryptoParadise, basically website.net has all relevant information.
Man, we gotta.
And then our personal Twitter accounts, I think, are just the handles that we have under our pictures here. So if you want to find our personal Twitter accounts, we can check that out as well. And we keep trying to make our rounds in all the Pulse Chain spaces. But what's unique about CryptoParadise is we have contractual obligations. We're talking to projects across multiple chains. And every time we do that, inevitably they are getting exposed to Surf token. And guess what? If they like what they hear from myself or Crypto Amaru or Nate or CryptoParadise, well, they're going to have to get onto Pulse Chain in order to get a piece of that pie. So that's kind of the marketing approach that we're doing as well. We're putting our money where our mouth is. And as we work with projects on Solana, Fuck 9 to 5 was a 10x on Solana for our private group. That community, every time they tweet about CryptoParadise or retweet our videos, they get down the funnel. And some of them hear about Surf and want to get onboarded into Surf as well. So that's kind of what we're going to do. That's why we're bringing people to Pulse Chain. And the fact of the nature is people are like, why Pulse Chain? Why this? It's opportunity. It's a game of how do I win? How do we make the community win? Because when the community wins, we also win. We win harder that way. We get more clients. We get more community members. We get more clout. We pump our own bags. So it's all a game of financial incentive and numbers and trying to help out those who believed in us early and who believe in us by hitting the follow and subscribe button. And we believe Pulse Chain provides that opportunity. Is there risk? Could we be wrong? Sure. But we've been right a lot more times than we've been wrong. And this is the most recent roll of the dice that we're taking. And we think we have the weighted dice in our hand.
fellas, I got to give you kudos, got to give you props. Thank you for building on Pulse Chain. I know a lot of people are excited for you guys. I'm excited for you guys. I hope to have you guys on later on in the year, whenever you guys reach new all-time highs after all-time highs. Let's bring you back on so we can finish this conversation. Because man, yeah, this has been a very, very smooth, very easy conversation to have with you guys. I really appreciate the insight that you guys had to offer.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you for having us on. We got to have you on our show as well. So hit us up. Let us know when you want to do that. Let's get you out to the retreat too. You talked earlier about we're more than just people behind a screen. That's something that I say all the time. I like taking everything we do behind the screen and then bringing it into the real world. So that's what the retreat's all about. I'll leave you at that. But appreciate you, man. I got to get going. I got a fireworks show to get to. My town does the fireworks show a day before the 4th of July. I don't know why they do that, but here we are. So I'm going to grab a beer and head out there. But appreciate your time, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Rock your CryptoParadise shirt, maybe a Pulse Chain hat or something, and get those people on boarded. All right.
Deal.
You need a tattoo of a coconut.
All right,
man.
boy. Peace out.
I see you. Well, hey, we can end it here. Let's get you back on here soon, man. Especially in Q3 or Q4 when things are really churning. Thank you for that SBET call. I followed your call a few days ago, and up a good amount. Yeah,
that's the thing. So I have an institutional financial background. Maybe we can do this for another conversation. So I'm always following stocks, and if you have traditional assets available, I think the Ethereum strategic reserve narrative is going to be a big mover. There's a couple companies on board with that. And I think the best play in my book, based on how much Ethereum they have and who's supporting it, is SharpLink Gaming, and that ticker symbol is SBET. I've been screaming for like 10 days or 14 days. Anything sub $10 was a screaming buy. We sat around $9 to $10 for 10, 14 days. Ethereum pumped $200. SBET went to $12 or $13. That's a 30% gainer. And will there be volatility? I hope so, because I want to buy some more on a dip. But I think there's a lot of upside potential in that stock moving forward.
Yeah, man. Good deal there. Yeah, I got stocks, crypto, Pokemon cards, man. Diversify into all of it.
That's the name of the game.
Yes, sir. Hitman, I will talk to you soon. You have a good rest of your day. Have a good holiday. Tomorrow's a holiday. Be safe. And we'll definitely talk soon, man. I appreciate all the time you've given us.
Sounds good. Keep grinding out there, guys. And we'll win sooner rather than later.
Take care, sir. You have a good one.
Yeah, from the block to the blockchain, I yield farm and I mean trade. On Pulse Chain, I just DCA the block for the DeFi. Shout out to the whole gang. From the block to the blockchain, I yield farm and I mean trade. On Pulse Chain, I just DCA the block for the DeFi. Shout out to the whole gang.